The DJI Mini 3 Pro is an incredibly capable drone, but after flying this drone since release, I have found 5 tips and tricks to make it even better, allowing you to get smoother drone movement, better tracking, work faster to get more clips and images per battery, and more. Let's jump right in and take a look. Now, if you're new around here, welcome. My name is Matthew and I make videos helping you get the most from your drone. So if you would like to see more of that, please consider subscribing and making sure that notification bell is on so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. It would be greatly appreciated. Okay, let's get the drone in the air and take a look at the first tip to make the DJI Mini 3 Pro even better. So the first tip is to use spotlight mode to help you do smoother drone moves. So let me show you what I mean. Let's say you wanted to do an orbit of this little building here, and it's a cold day, your thumbs are numb, or maybe you just find it difficult, like me, to hold your thumbs in a certain position for a while. My right thumb starts to twitch. So let's say we start doing an orbit like this, but it's just not perfect. You can't keep the subject in the center of the frame, or maybe the first few seconds are okay and then it goes off center. Well, there's a handy little tip where you can use spotlight mode to let the drone handle most of the work for you. So what you want to do is you want to put your subject in the center of the frame. And remember, if you're struggling to know exactly where the center of the frame is, you can go into settings, go to camera, scroll down to grid lines, and then you can either turn on this little X or this little center point. For now, I'm just going to leave the center point on, and then when you go back, you have this crosshair in the center of the screen so you know exactly where the center is. Then what you want to do is you want to draw a box around the subject you want to do a drone move around. In this case, this little building. And then you want to make sure spotlight mode is selected. Now here's the secret tip. You want to move the drone around a little bit when you see this box until it changes to a location marker. Do you see it's just changed to a location marker? Now the reason you want it to change to that little position marker is because the drone will actually move around your subject smoother when it's using that position marker. Now this is why spotlight mode is really useful for helping you do drone moves. If I simply move my right stick left, which would normally just make the drone fly left, you can see that the drone is actually keeping the subject centered, and even though I'm just holding the right stick left, it's doing an orb around the subject, and it's super smooth. So this is how you can use spotlight mode to do a lot of the legwork for you. So let's do an orbit in the other direction. I've hit record, and I'm now moving my right stick to the right. That's the only input I'm making on the joystick, but you can see the drone is actually doing an orb around the subject, keeping it centered at all times, getting this beautiful move. And it doesn't just work for orbits. You can do any combination of joystick inputs on the controller and the drone will automatically keep that subject centered at all times. So if I push the left stick up here to raise the drone up, you can see that it's automatically gimbaling down to keep that subject centered, getting this beautiful clip. And if I pull down in the left stick, you can see that it's automatically gimbaling up to keep that subject centered. And this gives you beautiful, smooth moves with little inputs on the controller, and this is super useful for beginners, letting the drone do most of the legwork for you. Now, another way you can use this to elevate your clips is to zoom in or out while moving. Now, this would normally be quite difficult to be making multiple inputs in the joysticks and moving the gimbal at the same time. But because the spotlight mode is doing most of the movement for us, that frees us up to move the gimbal. So let me show you an example of a zooming orbit. I've hit record, I'm simply moving my right stick left so that the drone starts moving around my point of interest, and then I'm going to slowly move the scroll wheel to the right, giving us this epic zoom in effect. And I'm going to keep zooming in slowly, punching into our point of interest. Now the next tip that will make your DJI Mini 3 Pro and specifically your DJI RC even better, and not a lot of people know about this, is the fact that you can actually do audio recordings straight to a screen recording on the DJI RC. Now this will be great if you're doing tutorials just like I'm doing, because you don't need to record that audio from a separate source. Or maybe you're flying around and you want to make verbal annotations as you're doing that. Well, you can do that by recording the audio straight to the screen recording. Now to do this, you will need a microphone with a USB-C connection. I'm going to be using the DJI wireless mic in this example. Now on the bottom flap, you have 2 USB-C connections. The first one is for transferring files from your controller or for charging the controller. That's not the one you want to use. The one you want to connect your microphone to is the one that is underneath the flap on the controller. Now, when you connect your microphone to the controller, you want to swipe down on the top right of the screen and make sure that you see this little headset icon. Now, when you see this means that the controller has recognized your microphone. And then you simply want to start a screen recording by swiping down on the top right of the screen again and making sure record screen is selected. And then the audio will be recorded straight to that screen recording for you to use later. What you're hearing is a sample audio recording that is being recorded with the DJI mic plugged into the DJI RC off the drone, and this is being recorded straight to the screen recording. Now, before we take a look at the next thing that will make your DJI Mini 3 Pro even better, I just wanted to thank today's video sponsor, which is Wirestock. Wirestock is a tool that helps you take the clips you capture with drones such as the DJI Mini 3 Pro and easily sell them as stock to potentially make a little bit of side income. It's as simple as uploading the drone clips you have captured to their website, and they distribute it to all the major stock marketplaces. To make things even easier, you can use Easy Submission, and this takes all the pain of having to fill out all the metadata off each clip as they go through and do it all for you. This is great because you can focus on getting out there and getting the best clips possible. Edit it, upload it, and let Wirestock handle the rest. The best thing about Wirestock is that you don't need multiple accounts on all the stock marketplace websites. You only have one account and one dashboard to track everything, including how many downloads you have had, and more importantly, the earnings for each clip. Wirestock also automatically creates a portfolio page for you, and you can use this to sell your stock directly to potential buyers by sending them the link. So if you want to try making a little bit of side income by selling the clips and images you capture with your DJI Mini 3 Pro, then head to the link in the description where you can get started with Wirestock today. Now, the next tip that makes the DJI Mini 3 Pro even better, and again you might not know about, is the fact that alongside a map on the bottom left of the controller screen, you can also have a radar compass. And this radar compass has a few really handy features. So firstly, how do we get it into that mode? Well, if you have the map showing on your screen, on the bottom right of the map, you will see this small compass icon. Now, if the map isn't enlarged like this, if it's showing as a small icon on the bottom left of the screen like this, then you simply want to tap that map button to enlarge it again. And then press this compass button to change into compass view. Now, as mentioned, this compass has a few super handy features. Firstly, it's a compass, so you can see the heading off the drone. If I rotate the drone around, you can see I'm moving from pointing towards north to east. The other thing it will show you is where the drone is relative to the home point. So at the minute, you can see this small H icon on the bottom right of the radar, and this is the home point. And if I rotate the drone round, you can see where that home point is relative to the drone. Now, you can center on either the drone or the home point by pressing this icon on the top left of the radar map, and you can see this is now switched to the home point, and you can see where the drone is relative to that home point. To change back, just press that icon on the top left of the screen again. It also has a horizon. So that blue line that you see across the center of the radar map is the horizon relative to the drone. So if I fly forward here, you can see the horizon rises because the drone is pitching forward. And if I fly backwards, you can see that horizon lowers because the drone is pitching backward. Now, this is super useful because if it's a windy day, it will actually show you how much the drone is leaning into the wind on that horizon level. So if I fly right, you can see that that horizon is tilted because the drone is leaning into the wind. Now, here's the thing that makes this radar compass view so useful. It's the fact that it will actually show obstacles that the drone is detecting and where they're positioned on that radar map. So let me fly the drone closer to myself. And if I bring the drone close to myself, you can start to see these orange and red markers appear on that compass as the drone is detecting them obstacles. And it's showing you position-wise how close them obstacles are to the drone. And this is super useful for knowing, just by looking at this compass, where them obstacles are so that you can make sure to avoid them. Now, the fourth tip that will make your DJI Mini 3 Pro even better is customizing the buttons on the controller, the C1 and C2 button if you've got the DJI RC, to your personal preference, and specifically functions that you use all the time. And the reason for this is by mapping a function that you use all the time to these buttons, you will be so much quicker and more efficient when flying your drone. And this means you will get more clips and images per battery. This is super important at this time of year when the weather is quite bad, or this will be super useful if you're trying to capture an event or something that's only happening once and you don't have lots of time to pause the event, move the drone around, change your settings, and then start recording again. You need to do things as quickly as possible to capture as much of that event as possible. So to change the functions of these buttons, you want to go to the settings menu on the top right of the screen. You want to go to control, and then you want to scroll down to button customization. Now under the C1 button, you could have it recenter or tilt down the gimbal. Now this is super useful for two reasons. Firstly, if you've got your gimbal at an odd angle and you want to bring it to the horizon as quickly as possible, you can simply press that C1 button on the back of the controller and it will snap right down, pointing straight down. And then if you press it again, it will come straight back up to the horizon. And then if you press it again, it'll go straight back to a top-down angle. So you can use this for resetting your gimbal to the horizon super quick or changing between the horizon and top-down super quickly. Another option that's really useful if you go across the camera is AE lock on or off. Now, if you're somebody who uses auto mode a lot and is constantly locking your exposure, instead of having to press and hold in the screen to lock that exposure every time, by mapping it to that button, you simply press that button and you will see AE lock on, and then you can press it again to turn AE lock off, making you much more efficient and quick than pressing and holding the screen every time. Looking at the C2 button, one other one I really want to show you which will make you more efficient if you're changing between vertical and horizontal mode a lot. You can go into the camera button options, scroll down, and there's one that's hidden until you scroll up called Portrait Landscape Mode Switch. And with that set, if I now press that button, you can see I very quickly change between vertical mode and horizontal mode. Now another tip, if you've just got your drone and you've started flying it and you're in normal mode, for example, or sport mode, let's take a look at normal mode first, and you're starting to move your gimbal, you might find that it moves way too quick to get cinematic clips, especially in sport mode. If you're using sport mode a lot and you're trying to use that gimbal, you'll find that the gimbal moves way too fast, and you might find it difficult to make smaller movements on that scroll wheel. Well, you can actually slow the gimbal down. To do that, you want to go to your settings, then you want to scroll to an option called Gain and Expo Tuning. Now in here you can do a range of things from slowing down or speeding up your gimbal relative to the input on the controller, but you can also slow down or speed up the movements of the drone relative to the inputs you're making on the controller. Now I'm just going to touch on the gimbal settings in this video, but if you want to know more about these settings and what each one does, I have a video that goes in depth into the Gain and Expo Tunings menu, and you can watch that by clicking up here, or I'll put a link to it in the description down below. Now you want to choose the mode across the top that you want to change the gimbal movement settings for. So let's just go with sport mode. And then you want to scroll down to where it says gimbal and change the max control speed. So if I take this all the way down to say 5 and now go back, a full input on the scroll wheel you can see is moving the gimbal much slower. And if I go back into them settings and increase this tilt speed and go back and move the scroll wheel, you can see it's moving really fast. So using this setting, you can dial in the speed of the gimbal to your own personal preference. And if at any time you want to go back to the default values, you can do that by pressing Reset Current Settings. So there you have it, 5 tips and tricks to make the DJI Mini 3 Pro even better. I hope you've learned something new. And if you have learned something new, please let me know by giving me the thumbs up and clicking that like button down below. And if you love all things drones and want to know how to get more cinematic videos and better images with your drone, then I recommend you check out my channel where I have a ton of other content to help you level up your drone game. Make sure that subscribe button is checked and that the notification bell is on so that you don't miss any of my upcoming videos. And if you want to stick around and see a few more of them now, here's a few I personally recommend. I'll not keep you back any further. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you over there.